right, we're here. What's going on?
Hey, we are here. What's up?
How's it going?
Good, good. You and I, of course, met at the premiere a few weeks back, so it's good to see you again.
Yep, good to see you too.
Um, how have you been holding up at this tail end of summer? You been well?
I've been really good. I've been climbing, getting the last bit of summer out, but it's still like super hot in Colorado, which is kind of, I don't know. I'm a little bit ready for colder weather now.
Yeah, yeah. Get into the winter sports. That's easy to do in Colorado, I guess.
Yep,
So,
definitely.
so, so you've been home since I saw you in New York. You've just been in Colorado.
Yep. I
Yeah.
haven't been traveling too much. We've kind of had like a little press tour going on there, and now it's been a little more chill that I've been back home. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been so fun these last few weeks to see these new episodes of the other two. Obviously, I'm such a fan of the show and a fan of everyone's work on it. Just for starters, what's been your favorite part about playing this character, Chase Dreams, over the last couple of years? It seems like you and everyone else are just having so much fun.
Man, there are so many favorite parts to playing this role. I'm just gonna the people on the show are probably the favorite. Like outside of like the show is great, the character works great, but the people I've been around have been just so awesome with Molly Shannon, and we all have good friendships behind set, so it's really fun to be on set with them. And then they're all just super talented, so to just like be around them is like taking a master class in like comedy and acting for like 4 years, and so it's just been that's probably been my favorite part. And then the character playing Chase himself, I think my favorite part about playing Chase is he's really like sweet and nice, and so like you kind of get to be this fun kid who's you get to play a pop star. Like who doesn't want to play a pop star? So it's been fun to kind of navigate like how he feels about life, and he's a normal kid but he's in this position, and it kind of parallels my life a little bit, especially early on. So it was definitely interesting, like really fun to navigate that, Chase being like a superstar. And then this season we get to see like so many different sides of Chase, especially coming up in the finale. It'll be exciting, and the episodes that came out last night, we're already seeing like a different side of Chase for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited for everyone else to get their eyes on it. So if you haven't caught up yet, everyone, be sure to. You mentioned that it's kind of been a masterclass for you over these last few years. What is something that, acting-wise, that you would say you've learned from working with people like Molly Shannon and Drew Tarver, who have such a rich history and kind of sketch and improv comedy? Helena York is a musical theater vet. So what are the things that you're kind of pulling from your experience acting-wise?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing I learned from them is just listening to the directors and listening to the writers, especially when you have good writers, because as the actor, your job is to, play the character they want you to play. As much as you're putting a lot of you in that, you're also listening to them. So they do a lot of listening. They don't do like, which is really, I've learned from that to do a lot of listening too. They don't do a lot of like, they know what they want to do, but they're really good at like, hey, this is what Chris and Sarah want. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're just really like, there's this like they really in the scenes too, just like, I don't know, they have a lot of fun. I'd say that's like something I've learned. I went into like this show like, oh, this is a huge production, it's gonna be so serious and so this, but they're like on set, we're just having fun, and like we're all professional and we all prepare and do the work, but when we get to set, that work does, whatever character work we've done is there, and then we just have fun and enjoy the art of acting, and it's so much fun to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like having people steering the ship like Chris and Sarah, obviously that they are previous head writers of SNL. I'm a big fan of Chris's film Other People, which he also did with Molly Shannon. So what's it like working with them and to kind of have them be at the helm? What's their set like?
Yeah, I think working with them is very like, I think we're all spoiled. All the actors on set are spoiled. The whole crew's spoiled because they're honestly, they're amazing people, but then their writing and just how they direct is just like, they're so detailed. So like the end, like you're like, oh man, we're doing all this work and like have to do this. And then the end product, you're like, oh my goodness, they're really good. And another thing like with Chris and Sarah is for this specific show, they just wrote so well to us as people. Like, I don't know if you know Josh Segarra, he plays Lance on the show, who's Brooke's ex-boyfriend/boyfriend. And basically like they wrote like Josh just embodies Lance. Like it's like they and Chase Dreams kind of has a lot of Case in him, and they just wrote these characters so well to us, and so it makes the job not, I wouldn't say easier for the actors, but just like more fluid. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh dude, I can really get into this character because there's a lot of me in it, and it's like very real that way, and they do a really good job of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the details of it, one of my favorite things about the show is that is kind of, it's really New York. It's really like entertainment industry. It's really gay when you're
Yep.
centering on
Yep.
the case story. Are there any jokes that needed to be explained to you, or anything that you didn't really know what was happening in the show?
A lot of the people they mentioned first season, like the Deborah Messing was one they mentioned a few times first season.
Yeah.
And that was like what, 14 or 15 or 14 when we did the pilot. And they mentioned Deborah Messing in that episode. And they mentioned a few other people I kind of got, but that like those the name jokes where they were like mentioning people would just like fly over my head.
Right.
Like, okay, like Deborah Mess, like cool. Like those were the ones that definitely had to be explained.
Yeah.
And then of course just like growing up, like 14 to 18, you just become a lot more self-aware and aware of like the world you're in. So like just like my appreciation for, you know, Molly and the comedy going on and the just the writing in general just grew like a ton over the few years as I became like more aware of like how incredible like the writers are and Molly is and Ken.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fair. You didn't grow up with Will and Grace, so Deborah Messing might not be on your radar.
Exactly.
It's a fair point. Now tell me a bit more about your background. I know that you were kind of discovered on social media for this show. Is that right?
Yep.
So how did that kind of start? Were you always wanting to go into like a creative pursuit? Were you always performing and acting, or just what was your trajectory like?
Yeah, I've always been a performer and an entertainer since I was a kid. You know, the classic, like play the guitar on the fireplace for the grandparents kind of kid. Fair. And I guess in middle school, I just really needed a creative outlet. So I started just posting everything I did on social media and like my singing, my comedy, like musically and Instagram and just having so much fun. And I ended up using it kind of as a vehicle to get to the acting thing and to like get out to LA and like my parents, I got them on board because they weren't just going to fly me out to Hollywood. So they were like, oh, like, let's do this thing. He's making it happen on social media.
Okay, no problem.
Started on a broken iPod in my room in Colorado and just started making videos and then, you know, used that to launch my acting career. And it's been a really cool journey and I'm so grateful for it.
And was that always kind of the goal? You say that something like Musical.ly and Instagram that started as a creative outlet. Did you see that as a path to LA? Did you kind of like see other people as inspiration, people who had done it before?
You know, I saw that I could do something with it. I don't know if I knew what I could do with it and how, you know, what path I went. I know I wanted to like jump. I know I wanted to like keep going with it. But I think I really wasn't expecting to like be able to jump into the industry this young and do it. And I didn't believe it wasn't not possible. I just didn't know what it was yet. And of course, that's the cool thing about life, right? Like kind of sometimes we don't know what we want and then we get it and we go, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, when I started just really enjoying more the acting side of things and like, whoa, I can actually do this young as a career. I just dove into it hard and have just been like working at it for like 5 years now.
And there's of course a lot of people out there that want to get their foot in the door when it comes to anything in Hollywood, whether it be film, television, if you're going into theater, and social media is a great tool to do that. I'm curious if you have any tips on how to make content or make something that resonates with people. What has worked for you?
I mean, the first thing you have to do is you have to identify what your goal is. Like, are you trying to get views and are you trying to get likes and get noticed? Or are you trying to put out a body of work that has some foundation to it? You're trying to make short form. So you kind of have to identify your goal. So if you're trying to, you know, become an actor and like your first goal is going to be to make quality content. You're going to make stuff you want to make. You don't want to cater to the algorithm. As much as the algorithm's great and views are great, if your real focus is going to be the craft, you're going to have a hard time like being on social media and focusing on likes and stuff because those aren't going to cater to quality content a lot of the time. They're going to cater to what's popular, and hopefully your stuff is popular sometimes, but you have to be focused on the craft first, especially if your goal is acting, and you hope it gets picked up. But that's the scary thing about social media is it can be all over the place, and the goal is you have to be consistent with you. Just be you. I started doing this thing. It was just like be yourself, and I've continued to say that until now. Because when you start catering to an algorithm on social media, it can really mess with your head. If that's what you want to do, though, if your views and likes and want to do that, that's awesome. But if you're trying to pursue the craft, you got to focus on the craft.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once you do find yourself having the opportunity to meet with a casting director, to meet with an agent, to do the next step in your career, what have you found leads to success in the audition room? I'm sure you're doing some self tapes right now from
Yeah.
Colorado.
Oh yeah. Tons of
Yeah.
self tape.
So how do you kind of prep for that situation?
I like to usually the audition room. It's kind of like this idea of going in with effort and then being effortless, right? Just like being the character. And so I think when I go into the audition room, of course, there's always nerves, but I think I always try to think from the writer's perspective. I go, hey, if I wrote this project, would I want a kid in and say all the lines perfect, or what would I want to have a kid come in and do this? And it's like I'm gonna go in and like put my best creative step forward and just be a character. And like if I was that writer, what would I want to see? I would want, what would I want to see in that room? And that's kind of what I approach. And then I go in. My main thing I do before the audition room now is I do the work before. I prepare hardcore. I get all the lines ready. I make sure it's all in my head. And then when I get to the audition room, I don't do any more work. I just let it happen. I let the work be the work and do the work, because you're not going to change your whole thing in the audition room, right? It's going to be what you did. So preparing is the most important part. And then you can go in and relax and really be that character. And that's what I find creates the most success for me in self.
Yeah, totally. You can't overthink it. Once you're in the room, that's what's going to screw you up. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, as a final question for you, then, just give us an idea of what you want to do next. I know you're 18. Are you going to be going to school? Are you going to continue auditioning and pursuing acting? What kind of projects do you want to do? Just what's next for Case?
Next for me, I'd love to book a film. I'm working on getting a few right now. I'm doing some self tapes for those, and continuing to hopefully season 3 for the other 2, of course. So that'll kind of determine what the next 6 months look like for me. But overall, I think I'm gonna also, definitely do some school. I'm just kind of giving myself options, because when you're 18, your mind changes every day. So the best thing you can do is like not just go, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this exact thing. Like, give yourself options. Like, if you want to do stand up, create that option, and if that happens, that happens. If you want to do drama or a big film, so I'm just kind of trying to give myself options and just enjoy it all, and kind of be in the now and have a lot of gratitude. That's been the goal. A lot of gratitude.
Yes, I mean, you're in a great place now. Again, such a fan of your work on the series, and if I have anything to say about it, you'll be doing a 3rd season within the next few months. But thanks for sharing your time with us today. It was great to see you again, and congrats again on the other 2.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Bye-bye.
All right, later, guys.